So, as I said, we're going to talk about gerunds. So, gerunds are verbal nouns, okay? Like present participle, gerunds ending in ing, they can be the subject of verbs, okay? The objects of prepositions and the objects of certain verbs. For example, number one, dancing is good exercise. In this example, you can see that we're using the verb dancing as the subject of the sentence. Okay, it's a present participle verb. But in this case, dancing is the subject. Number two, you can
yes. It is not correct to say dancing is a good exercise.
Yeah, both are correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can omit the article, or you can say it's the same.
Okay.
On the next example, we have you can solve this problem by using a calculator. Okay, and here we have the preposition by, and then we have a verb in present participle or in gerund. So in this case, the verb using is a gerund object of a preposition. Okay, verbs after prepositions always go with ing. And then we have he enjoys going to good restaurants. In this case, it's the object of a verb. Here we have the verb enjoy and one after the other. Okay? It's like when you say I like running. Running, it's the object of the verb like. Okay? Okay, do you have any questions here?
No.
Perfect. All to and
only,
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, tell me.
Only the last sentence was gerund as a what?
As an object of a verb. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then we said that we will check a chart later about the most common verbs used in the TOEFL. Okay. Yeah, we will check them today. So, all 2 and 3 word verbs or phrasal verbs that can be followed by verbals are used with gerunds, not infinitives. Okay, all phrasal verbs are always used with gerunds, not infinitives. This is true even when the verb phrase ends with the word to. Okay, this can be tricky because infinitives always begin with the word to. For example, the 3-word verb looking forward to. Yes, this is a 3-word phrasal verb. And even though we have or we need a gerund verb. Okay? And on the second example, we said John is opposed to our participating. One more time. We have be opposed to, and then we have a verb with ing. Okay?
But in this case, opposed to goes, it is not a phrasal verb.
Opposed to, yeah, be opposed to, it's like when you say be supposed to. There are some, well, we can say well, maybe you're thinking about a phrasal verb as make up, wake up, or things like that. Verbs with a preposition and they have a different meaning. But we're not only talking about phrasal verbs, okay? There are also 3-word verbs which actually always go together. Okay, like be able to, you know?
Uh-huh.
Be able to is actually not a phrasal verb, okay?
Uh-huh.
But it's a three-word verb. And you always say be able to and then a verb, okay?
Okay.
So what
Okay.
I'm saying in this example is that even though you have a verb, okay, with a preposition, even though the preposition is to, after the word to, you're going to need a verb with ing. You see? And normally
Okay.
this is confusing because we
Uh-huh.
know that every time we use the word to is because you need an infinitive verb, right?
And infinity.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's talk about infinitives. Infinitives consist of the word to and the simple form of the verb. To and the simple form. Uh, like gerunds, infinitives can be the subject of verbs and the objects of certain verbs. We'll check this chart in a second. Unlike gerunds, infinitives can never be the object of prepositions. Okay? So, as I mentioned before, every time you have a verb after a preposition, the verb must go in gerund. Okay?
They never can be the object.
Of prepositions.
Um, mhm.
So, for example, number one, we say to help. To help others is rewarding. So here we have the imperative verb, and this is the subject of the sentence, to help.
Okay.
And in number two, he attempted to swim across the river. To swim is the object of a verb. Yes?
Yes.
Infinitives are used in several other ways. It is important to change the oil in your car frequently. For example, in this case, we have infinitive after an adjective. For example, here we have important, and then we have the infinitive. The first man to land on the moon was Neil Armstrong. In this case, we are using the infinitive as an adjective after a noun. Okay, here we have the infinitive to land, and it's an adjective after the noun, the first man.
O sea, the first man is the noun.
Yes, the first man is a noun, and to land, actually, here it's an adjective. You see?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then we have she must take this class to graduate. Okay, we're also using infinitive verbs to express purpose. So as you can see, we can use infinitive verbs as different parts of speech. We can use it
Uh-huh.
as subjects, as objects of verbs, as adjectives to express purpose, and after infinitive, after an adjective.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And what about the simple form of the verbs? So it's basically like the same infinitive verb, but without the word to. Okay. Simple forms are used after the causative verbs. Do you remember when we check causative verbs? Have, make, and let?
Yes.
Okay, so we said, for example, that he had the carpenter repair, or his father makes him study hard, and she let her son go. I'm sorry, this is let. She let, is in past. She let her son go on the trip.
It's also get, huh? Accusative
Yes,
verb.
but remember that when we use get, you don't use the verb in base form. We use it in past participle. Remember? You said, for
Mm.
example, I got my house painted,
Mhm.
and we use the
Clean.
verb in past participle.
Okay.
Painted. Okay, so that's different. That's why here only we have, make, and let. Only have, make, and let. Because with get, we use the verb in past participle. And here we're checking when we use the verb on its base form without the word to.
Okay.
Yes?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I think there is another one that we should mention, and it's that we are going to use them also after a modal verb. Like I can run, say I can to run. Yes, we will always
Mm.
use a base verb after a modal verb. There are 10 modal verbs. The only one that has the word to is ought to, but it's
Mm.
because it's
Mhm.
actually ought to. Okay, I ought to run, and you have the word to. Okay, but all the
Yes.
other 9 modal verbs are
Mhm.
always with a verb on its base form. So let's check one of these parts. Number one, we're going to talk about verbs that take verbal objects. We will continue talking about these verbs. So we will always use these verbs: admit, avoid, deny, enjoy, finish, justify, quit, recommend, suggest, and understand with gerund verbs.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so you said, for example, I admit going to the discotheque. Okay, so if you use the verb admit, after the verb admit, you must use a verb with gerund.
Okay.
Verbs that we use with infinitive verbs are agree, allow, arrange, attempt, cause, choose, decide, enable, hope, instruct, know how or learn how, permit, persuade, require, seem, teach how, tell, use, and warn.
Mm-hmm. I sorry.
So you just must learn these verbs. These are the most common verbs that usually appear on the TOEFL exam with this type of verbs. Okay.
Okay.
And as we said, verbs that are used with simple forms are have, let, and make. Before I continue, do you have any questions here?
No. Now I
Perfect.
have to check the list
The
again
list.
to if I've already learned it by heart.
Yeah, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about incorrect choice of verbals. Okay, any of these verbals, participle, gerund, infinitive, or simple form, might be incorrectly used when another one of them is required. That's what is going to happen in the TOEFL exam. Remember that in this part or in this section of the exam, we must find a mistake. So we will find these four different types of verbs: participle verbs, gerund, infinitive, or simple form. For example, the writer Edgar Allan Poe is usually credited with invent the short story. Which one do you think is wrong?
Okay. Usually credited with inventing.
That's right. Remember, after a preposition, we will always use a verb with ing. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So it should be inventing.
Mm-hmm.
What about this one? A single lens reflex camera allows a photographer seeing exactly what the camera will photograph.
It's to see.
That's right, because here we have the verb allow, and we said that we have the verb allow, we must have a verb with ing.
With infinitive.
Yeah, sorry, I said with ing, with infinitive. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, questions about this example?
No.
Perfect. So now let's talk about incorrect choice of participle verbs. You might see past participle used incorrectly for present participle or present participles used incorrectly for past participle. So it means um, you might find a verb with ing and it should be a verb in past participle, okay, or the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For example, there are probably around 3,000 languages speaking in the world.
Oh.
Spoken,
Okay.
that's right. Okay.
Spoken, right?
Yes, because the sentence is in passive voice. Languages cannot speak, and speaking is an active. Remember that we said that ing expresses that the action is active because they are causing something.
Well, yes, now I remember.
So it's this one is passive and it should be in past participle. For decades, journalist Theodore H. White wrote books described the American presidential election.
Wrote books to describe.
No.
Describe. I don't know.
To describe? No. Yeah, the mistake is described. I'm sorry. Presidential? Sorry. I think, let's see here. I think it was my mistake. Yeah, here it says. Sorry, this is not. The red square should not be here. Okay, the answer is described. It says, because in this case, we're talking about Theodore H. Wright wrote books describing. Okay, it's active. Here it is. It's active. The past participle described is used incorrectly because the idea is active. The books described the elections. It's not correct. Okay, we should use a present participle verb. I with ing describing. Okay.
Describing is active.
Yes, and in this
You
case, the
said.
sentence is active.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just modify this one.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This one should be here. Okay, nutmeg widely is used as a species. Is actually the kernel of a tropical nut.
Widely
Uh-huh.
is used as a species.
Uh-huh. Which should be the right answer?
I don't know.
No.
No.
It's is used. You should not use the verb to be here. You should only use widely used. Okay, rather than the main verb is used, a past participle used is required. Only use, not the verb to be. Let me go back. It was, I think that I just passed this sentence. It says, you might also see a main verb used when a participle is required. Okay, a main verb
Mm.
when we need a participle.
Mhm.
So in this case, we have is used, and is not necessary. The answer should only be nutmeg widely used as a species. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, incorrect forms of infinitives. In this case, incorrect infinitive forms such as forgo or to going might be used in place of the correct form, to go. So you cannot have forgo. Okay, if you had the participle for or the preposition for, you need to use the verb go with ing. And you cannot use to and going in the same sentence. Okay?
Okay.
For example, viral infections are generally more difficult to treating than bacterial infections. Infections.
Viral infections are generally more difficult to treat
That's right. Ing here,
than
it's
bacterial infections.
not necessary. Because we need a verb in infinitive and we cannot have to and treat. Right?
Mhm.
Okay, just before we continue, let me just remember that there is one only, well, two cases when you have the word to and the verb with ing. Remember that when we use used to, we checked, let me add a slide here. We already spoke about this topic. We said that when we use
Use
be used to
you.
and when we use get used to, they are always followed by an ing verb. Like I am used to going, or I got used to going. In this case, you can have the word to and the verb with ing. These examples are correct. So this is also possible. Okay?
Mhm.
But it's because we have be used to. Okay? And as we mentioned before, we said that we might have also a three-word phrasal verb like I am looking forward to opening a restaurant. One more time, you can have to opening, and this is correct because actually the word to is part of the phrasal verb looking forward to. Am I clear?
It is also possible to use that phrasal verb without verb be, right?
Which one?
I look
Looking.
forward.
Yeah. That in well, this sentence is in
Look
present
forward.
continuous. Yeah, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's the same. I can only say it in present simple. I look forward to opening a restaurant. But as you can see
Okay.
here, the word to is not part of the infinitive verb. The word to is part of the
No.
three word verb. Okay?
Yes.
This is just something to point out.
Remember.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there are these exercises on the platform, 38.1, which is used to identify incorrect and correct forms of gerunds, infinitives, and simple forms. 38.2 is to identify incorrect and correct forms of participles, only participles with ing or ed. And 38.3, it's to identify and correct a variety of errors involving verbals. Okay, like all of them together, a mix. Okay,
Okay.
so that's it with errors with verbals. Do you have any questions?
Well, it sounds so easy when you explain that.
Yeah, but remember, number one, you must memorize the list to know which verbs are
Yes.
followed with which type of verbs. Okay, and
But
yeah,
last time I could do an exercise that I couldn't do before the explanation.
okay. Ah, yeah,
So I
that's right.
was
You
like
you
very happy.
that's good. Perfect.
Yes.
You tried the exercise before everything and you got it well. Perfect. Now that
Yes.
you know, now you understand maybe the reason why, but you already knew the answers. That's good.
Hmm.
Okay. So now let's
What?
yeah, tell me. Tell me.
No, yeah, I'm trying to remember which because I follow the numbers
Ah,
you say.
yeah.
For example, exercise point one, and
38.1.
then after the class or when I have time, I try to
Perfect.
practice
Yes.
doing the exercises. But the last one, I couldn't do it. I couldn't
Why?
do it well.
Okay.
The one that they were like a variation of of all exercises
Uh-huh.
because it is not just one.
Um,
It was just the activity with
think
several exercises. I,
was
I don't
it
know.
this one? Identified a variety of word choice errors. This one?
Yes, exactly.
You couldn't do that
And then,
exercise. What?
well, sorry?
You said that you couldn't do that exercise. What?
No, before the explanation.
Ah,
But then
okay,
when
okay,
you
okay, okay.
explained that to us,
Uh-huh.
then it was very easy, and I
Ah,
have a
get it.
good grade.
Perfect. So normally you try to do the exercises before the explanation. And that one,
Well,
you
something.
yeah,
Hmm.
and when you tried that one, you couldn't actually do it, but after the explanation, it was clear.
Uh-huh.
Ah, okay, get it. Well, I think it's something good. I mean, that you're trying the activities before the explanation so that you can actually evaluate your knowledge before the
Which,
class. Yeah, and after the class, you can try the exercise again, and then you will be able to see if you improved or not. Yeah, it's something good. And I normally used to tell students to do the exercises after I explain them. But now I think it's a good idea also to do it before.
well, yeah,
Yeah,
to measure your knowledge.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, like
I was
the
like
yes.
like a very confused about the uses of such, and I
Okay.
have so many doubts.
Yeah,
But then it was a good job.
perfect. Okay, so let's
Yes.
continue with errors with prepositions. Okay.
Okay.
So prepositions errors are among the most difficult errors to catch. Okay. So on this section of the exam,
Yes.
they are the most
We have
difficult.
a lot of
Yeah.
prepositions to learn, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's right. We have a lot of prepositions, and actually they have like a specific rule sometimes each one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, obviously using prepositions in English is very complex. For every rule, there seems to be an exception. Okay. Recently,
Oh
there have
gosh.
been more errors involving prepositions in the written expressions part of the TOEFL, and the errors have been more difficult to spot.
Oh,
Okay, so this is like the one that students do not catch, and TOEFL is increasing the number of questions about prepositions. Okay,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
so prepositions are used in adverbial phrases that show time, place, and other relationships. For example, in the morning, on Pennsylvania Avenue, and to the park by a student. Okay, so for example, this one is about time. This one on Pennsylvania is about place. And this one is, for example, direction to the park. And also by a student.
Okay.
Preposition are also used after certain nouns. For example, a cause of, a reason for, or a solution to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like of, for, and to are used
Okay. So,
after the nouns a cause, a reason, or a solution. Okay.
okay.
We can also use them after certain adjectives and participles. For example, different from, aware of, or disappointed in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
They can also be used after certain verbs. For example, combine with, rely on, or refer to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
We can also use them in phrasal prepositions. For example, two or three word prepositions like according to, together with, or instead of. Okay, this is,
According
yeah,
to which other?
together with,
Mm-hmm.
or instead of.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, these words are also known as chunks. Okay, because they always go together.
Mm-hmm.
You do not say instead without the word of. You said instead of doing this, please go and do this. Okay, you always use them together. Okay,
Okay.
in certain set expressions by far. For example, in general, on occasion, or at last.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So here we have in mini lessons for section 2, you will find the following block of this course. All of these uses for prepositions are explained in practice, and practice exercises are provided. Okay, you will have the mini lessons for section 2 on the platform. Let me see if I can show it here. Okay. Okay. Do you remember that after we finished the listening section, you had some mini lessons that you had to memorize some vocabulary? That I told you where the glossary was and how you should practice the vocabulary, and then you had to fill in some sentences with the words.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I. Uh huh.
So in this case,
Uh huh.
for this section, we also have a mini lesson. Okay, and these mini lessons are specifically for prepositions. Okay, just let
Uh
me see if I
huh.
can show you the where they are.
Okay.
Oh, it's not working. Okay, I will go back in a second. Okay, so we're going to check prepositions one by one. But anyways, what I'm telling you is that you have this section, okay, for mini lessons, and mini lessons are about prepositions, okay? There you go. It's still loading. Sorry. Okay, so how are the errors in prepositions presented in the TOEFL? Number one. Sorry, this is the. The wrong preposition is used according to the context of the sentence. Some of the rules for choosing the correct prepositions are given in the mini lessons, but you will never be able to memorize all the rules for prepositions used in English. The more you practice, though, the more you will develop a feel for determining which preposition is correct in any given situation. Okay? You will find the explanation of why you have to choose one preposition or the other on the mini
No, wait,
lessons.
wait.
Yes.
I went
Ah, okay.
away, or I don't know how to say that, because the internet was it kicked me
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Don't worry. Where were you?
So I came back right now.
Don't worry. I was saying that you remember the mini lessons for section one. Now we have some mini lessons for section two. These mini lessons are
But I cannot see the.
at the
Ah,
slides. I'm sorry.
mhm.
Let me. I think that maybe it was not your internet. It was mine. Well, I don't know because it's still loading. Give me just a second.
Really? No, because I
Yep.
didn't. I wasn't hearing you.
Ah, okay. Okay, let me share my screen again.
But yes, I remember the
The
part
section.
of
The
listening where you were
perfect.
saying.
So there is also a set of mini lessons for this section. Remember, the point here with prepositions is that they have a lot
Uh-huh.
of rules, and even though they have a lot of exceptions too. You know that we say in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but we said at night. So you need to know that you have to say at night. Okay, and
Yes.
for example, in months, we
Uh-huh.
say on November. Okay, but we say, for
Not.
example, on Christmas or in Christmas. It's on Christmas. So there is like a very simple way to learn these three prepositions, at least the ones that are the most common, which are in, on, at. And as you know, in is used for the biggest part of it. If we're talking
Mhm.
about uh, time, we say in 2000. Okay, then the smaller portion of time could be like, for example,
Mhm.
on Monday. It's just one day, not a whole year. And we say the smallest portion of time would be the time, or
Mhm.
yeah, you said at 4 p.m. So that's how we use in, on, at. But it's not always that way. Okay, that's why we have all these problems with prepositions. But it is still loading. So sorry. Can you see my screen now?
Okay. On March.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same. For example, with places. Are you still there? You're not.
Yes.
Ah, yeah, good. Okay. With places, it's
Will
exactly the
you?
same. We use in with the biggest place. For example, I live in Mexico. Okay, or I am in Guanajuato. With a smaller portion of place, like for example the streets, we use on. Like I am on Revolution Street. And for a specific place, we use at the school. So here we are. So here on the boxes here, we are checking written expression, and here you will find the mini lessons for section 2, and its preposition use.
Yes.
Okay, there are 8 mini lessons, and you can check.
Okay.
Okay, for example, number 1 is adjectives, participle plus prepositions.
Prepositions.
Okay, and we will check one by one. For example, this one is nouns plus prepositions, verbs plus prepositions, phrasal plus prepositions, etc. Let me see if I can open one at least. Okay. Meanwhile, let's go to the tip. Okay, there are two particular situations involving prepositions choice that are often tested in written expression. Number one, errors
Mhm.
with form, with from and to, and between and, or errors with since, for, and in. Okay,
Yes.
these
Mhm.
errors from, to, between, and,
Yes.
since, for, and in are one of the most common mistakes that you might find on the TOEFL exam. Okay, we're going to check one and one. So let's start with errors with from, to, and between, and. Okay, still loading. Okay,
Okay.
so both these expressions are used to give the starting time and the ending time. They can also be used to show relationships of place and various other relationships. For example, he lived in Seattle from 1992 to 1997. Or he lived in Seattle between 1992 and 1997. Route 66 ran from Chicago to Los Angeles. Or Route 66 run between Chicago and Los Angeles?
Well, the first one is he lived in Seattle
Seattle?
from 1992 to 1997.
Yes. And here we have
And
from and to. Okay? I'm sorry.
then
Between and
route
from and to and between and. Okay?
Route 66 run from Chicago to Los Angeles.
Yes. And Route 66 run between Chicago and Los Angeles.
It's from, no? From and to?
No, the two options are correct.
Okay.
The four sentences are correct. Yep. Four sentences are correct. Okay?
Oh, wait. But, and they both, from and to and between and they both mean, is the same meaning? Or mean the same? Sorry.
Translating it, it's not. Okay, for example, the number one says he lived in Seattle from, means él vivió en Seattle desde 1992 hasta 1997. And the second one, he said, él vivió en Seattle entre el 92 y el 97. So actually, they do have a different meaning. Yeah.
There is a difference.
Yes, there is a difference. Okay, and also Route 66 run from Chicago to Los Angeles. And it means that it starts on Chicago and it finishes in Los Angeles. But the second option says Route 66 run between Chicago and Los Angeles. So it says that it passes through Chicago and also passes through Los Angeles, but maybe it continues with other cities. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, errors usually involve an incorrect pairing of those words or the incorrect use of other prepositions. So we cannot say, for example, between to or between with.
It's between
and. That's right. Or from and or since to. It's not. We have to use from to.
Since.
We don't use since. We should use from to.
Okay.
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 Okay. Questions with this pair of words?
No.
Perfect. Now, errors with since, for, and in.
Yes.
Okay, since is used before a point in time with the present perfect tense, but never with the past tense. Okay? And this is going to be our keyword, a point in time. For is used before a period of time with the present perfect and other tenses. Okay? And in is used before certain points in time, like years, centuries, decades, with the past tense and other tenses, but never with the present perfect tense. Okay?
Wait a minute.
Yes. So here it says years, centuries, and decades.
Okay, ya entendí.
Yeah. So, what is since and for? What is this a point in time and what is a period of time? If we check a timeline, okay, and we're talking about something that happened here, okay, like I fell. Okay, this is just a point in time. So I should use since. But if I did an action here and I continue doing the action for a period of time, in this case, I am referring to a period of time and I should use for. Okay, let's say that it lasts
Mhm.
5 years. So I say, for example, I studied my career for 5 years because it's expressing that the action started in the past and continue for a period of time and then it finishes. So I said for 5 years. But if I just want to say that I started doing an action in a point of time, I said I studied my career since 2000. Okay.
Mhm.
So for example, he has lived here since 1995, or he has lived here for 2 years, or he moved here in 1995. So number one, here we have just a point in time, 1995. Point in time, we use since. Number two, for 2 years, 2 years is a period of time. That's why we use for. And in this case, the sentence is in present, is in past, I'm sorry, not in present perfect. That's why we have to use in. Okay, we cannot use in present perfect. So the errors that you might find in the TOEFL would be like, he has lived here in 1995. The mistake is because the sentence is in present perfect and we're using in. Number two, he has lived here since 2 years is not correct because since is not used with a period of time. And he lived here since 1995. We said that we cannot use since in a past tense sentence. Yes? Questions in it?
Okay. Maybe with the exercises.
Perfect. Not so far. Good. So, for example, the pitch of a tuning fork
Mhm.
depends on the size and the shape of its arms. Why is this example here?
Sí, es lo que. And I was trying to find
It's up.
the error. But I don't.
Yeah. The mistake is off because we always use depend with the
On.
word on. That's right.
On.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, the correct preposition after the verb depend is on, not off. But I don't know why this example
Okay.
is here. Sorry. We'll check it out.
Hmm.
This one. The Alaskan pipeline runs between Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic coastal plain to the port of Valdez, a distance of 789 miles.
I think it's wrong because the preposition between goes with
Yes,
and.
that's right. And here we have
And
the word
there
to.
it says to.
Yes. So between is incorrect. It should be from, right? From.
And.
Yes.
Uh, ¿Qué las? Ajá.
Perfect. Candles were mankind's chief source of illumination since at least 2000 years.
For a place.
That's right. Yes, because here we have 2000 years, and 2000 years is a period of time. Okay,
Y el since
so
is a starting point, right?
yes, that's right. We should use for in this sentence. Okay, so before a period of
Mhm.
time, 2000 years, the preposition for should be used. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Questions here before I continue?
No,
No, perfect.
I think it's clear.
So let's continue with incorrect inclusion or omission of prepositions. So what is this? In these mistakes, a preposition is going to be used when it is not necessary, or maybe the opposite. Maybe it is not used when it is needed. Okay.
Mhm.
For example, according to many critics, Mark Twain's novel Huckleberry Finn is his greatest work and is one of the greatest American novels ever written.
According to many
Very
critics.
yes. According to many readings, critics, here is missing the word to or the preposition to. Yes, very good. What about this one? Some of the most of spectacular waterfalls in the eastern United States are found in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania.
Uh, ay, most of.
Sorry? Yes, very good. Here, the preposition of it's
Of
not necessary
is
here.
wrong.
Yeah, it should only be
Uh,
must. Some of the most spectacular waterfalls. Yep. If it
okay,
were the majority, we should say the majority of spectacular waterfalls, etc. But we're using the word must. Okay.
okay.
So for these, we have three more exercises: 39.1, 39.2, and 39.3. Okay, to
Mhm.
identify correct and incorrect prepositions. Okay, errors involving inclusion or omission of prepositions. And finally, identifying and correcting preposition errors.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so now let's continue with errors with articles. Okay.
Mhm.
Like errors with prepositions, errors with articles are sometimes hard to catch. This is partly because of the complexity of the article system in English, and partly because articles like prepositions are small words, and one's eyes tend to skip over errors involving these words. As they are very small words, you're talking about an article like a, and, the. Normally we skip it. The basic uses of articles are explained in the following chart. Here we have them. Number one, well, we have a, and, the, and when sometimes we don't need articles. As you know,
Mhm.
our n is used before a singular noun when one does not have a specific person, place, thing, or concept in mind. For example, an orange or a chair. Okay?
Mhm.
We use the before singular and plural and non-countable nouns when one has a specific person, place, thing, or concept in mind. Okay? For example, the
Okay.
oranges the oranges, I'm sorry, this was the orange, the oranges, the fruit, the chair, the chairs, or the furniture. Okay, and finally, sometimes articles are not necessarily. We do not use articles before noun count, nouns, or countable nouns, or plural nouns when one does not have a specific person, places, things, or concepts in mind. We can say, for example, just orange, oranges, fruit, chair, etc. So let's check one by one. The indefinite article a is used before words that begin with a consonant sound. And this is important.
Yes.
Sound. Okay? For example, a chair, a book. Okay? An is used before words that begin with a vowel sound. Okay, let me do this. Vowel sound and consonant sound. Ah. An orange and ocean liner, for example. Before words that begin with the letter H and U, okay, we gotta be careful because either a or an can be used depending on the pronunciation of the words. For example, we have house, and in this case, letter H is pronounced as a consonant, so we say a house. But for example, we have the word hour, and in this case, our letter H is voiceless, so we say an hour.
No.
Okay. The same happens with U, like university. Or umbrella. The first
or
example.
honest, for example. Honor.
Yeah, also honest. Honest and horror. So when we're talking, for example, about university, the first letter is not like U, it's U, and it sounds like the consonant Y. So that's why we say a university or a uniform, okay, or a union. And umbrella, or it says like umbrella, we say an umbrella. Okay, an honest man or a horror movie. Okay, questions here?
Honor. Honor.
Horror. I'm sorry, this is horror. Yeah, my mistake.
Yeah, but
What?
pero también existe el honor, ¿no?
Honor.
De honor.
Yeah. It is honor and honor.
And then because the sound
Is voiceless.
is a vowel.
Is yeah, that's right. The first sound we produce is a vowel, the vowel O. Honor. Okay. Now, here we're mentioning only H and letter U, but do not only focus on these two letters because there are more. For example, euro. Okay. Euro also starts with a vowel, but we say a euro because we don't say euro or it's not, it's euro. Okay. Or for example, an MP3 player. In this case, the first letter we produce, or the first sound we produce, is a MP3 player. That's why we say an MP3 player. Okay. Okay. Questions here?
Okay. Okay, I remember that there are a list of this. I don't know if you call them irregular or how do you say? Well, those kind of words that are with the an and with the n, but I think they are more than that, no?
There are more than one?
I think they are so many.
No, well, normally most of the words that are used with one or the other are always going to start with H or U because of their pronunciation. Most of them. There are some other words, which is, for example, Euro and MP3, but just remember, you can just
Mhm.
focus on the consonant sound or the vowel sound, and that's it. Okay?
Okay, okay.
And that's it. So
Well,
just focus that we're not talking about spelling. Okay, it's not about how you write the word. It's about how you pronounce the word, and that's it.
mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other question?
Well, no.
Perfect.
Let's see how it works.
Well, here we have the examples: an honor, an umbrella, a hat, or a university.
Okay.
Now, when are we going to use or when we are not going to use these articles? There are also some specific rules for using or not using articles that should be aware of. An indefinite article can be used to mean one. It can also use to mean pair. Okay. For example, let's say here, like a half, a quarter, a third, a tenth. Where it in this case, a means one. A
Ah,
mile, a minute, or in this case, a mile a minute. This one means 1 mile per minute. An apple a day,
wow.
an apple a day keeps the doctor away. In this case, a day means per day. Okay?
Mhm.
A definite article is used when there is only one example or the thing or person, or when the identity of the thing or person is clear. Okay? It says, for example, the moon went behind some clouds. Obviously, there is only one moon. So we say here, the moon, okay? Because you know what moon I am talking about. If I said, please open the door, you know which door I mean. Okay? I cannot say, for
Okay.
example, um, the what? The car is is awesome, and you're like, what car are you talking? Okay, like I said,
Mhm.
a car is red. I said, oh, okay, yeah, and other cars are blue and others are yellow. So when you know what you're talking, okay, you have to use the article the.
Let's.
A definite article is usually used before these expressions of time and position. For example, the front, the back, the center, the top, or the bottom, the beginning, the middle, the end, the past, the present, the future, the morning, the afternoon, the evening. But as the preposition it, we don't say the night. We say at night.
Not like.
Okay?
Mhm. Okay. I no 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 no.
Sorry,
Please,
sorry,
please,
sorry,
please.
sorry. Yeah,
Ready.
perfect. Now, a definite article comes before a singular noun that is used as a representative of an entire class or things. This is especially common with the names of animals, trees, inventions, musical instruments, and parts of the body. For example, the tiger is the largest car.
Mhm.
I think this should be cat, not car. I'm sorry.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes.
the tiger is the largest cat. My
Cat.
favorite three is the oak. The
Uh-huh.
Wright brothers invented the airplane. Brothers. Sorry. The oboe is a woodwind instrument. The heart pumps blood. Okay.
What's the old?
I'm sorry.
The one that is above the heart.
The oboe is
Uh-huh.
it's the name of an instrument. Es el oboe. De hecho, en Spanish es oboe.
Yeah.
Es un instrumento musical. El oboe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Now we can also use the before numbers. A definite article is used before expressions with an ordinal number. For example, the first, the fourth chapter, the seventh volume.
Mhm.
Okay, so when we're using ordinal numbers, normally we use the article the. When we're using cardinal numbers, we do not need an article. We only say one, chapter four, volume seven, etc. I don't say the chapter four. I only say chapter four.
Mhm.
Okay.
Pero ¿en qué casos no podemos decir the one?
Well, in that case, we're
One.
talking about something different. Okay, we use the one to refer
Mhm.
to a person or object that you already know what we're talking. In this case, I am talking about one thing, one object. That's it.
Yeah.
And what you're telling me is like, for example, I like the boy. Okay, and the boy is wearing a hat, for example. So in this case, we can shorten one more time these two clauses, because in this case we have the boy here and we have the boy. We're talking about the same subject. We can omit the second subject here, the boy, and we can say I like the boy, or I like the one, okay, wearing a hat. Okay, but this is because the one is referring to the boy, and you know that we're talking about a boy. But here I am saying that you're only going to use one because we're counting. Okay?
Okay.
Now, a definite article is used before decades and centuries. For example, the 1930s, the 50s, the 800s, or the 21st century.
Um, Wait.
Yes.
So, for example, if I want to say something like, I like music from the 80s,
Uh-huh, yes.
is correct.
Yes, that's right.
Mhm. Okay. Ready.
Perfect. A definite article is usually used before superlative forms of adjectives. Well, we already know that every time we use a superlative, we always need the word the and then the superlative form. the widest river, or the most important decision. Yep. A definite article is using quantity expressions in this pattern. Quantifier of the noun. For example, many of the textbooks, some of the water, all of the people, not much of the paper, most of the students, and a few of the photographs.
Okay.
Okay. So they follow this pattern. Quantifier of the noun.
Okay. Well, I have a question, but
Yes.
doesn't have anything to do with this place.
Yes.
Article. Articles
What?
is also, well, one of its meanings could be as we use it in Spanish, o sea, el artículo, este artículo, por ejemplo, no el artículo
Yeah.
para leer,
Yeah, yeah,
sino,
yeah.
sino un artículo. Este
Yes.
artículo es muy caro. We
You're
use it
asking
as in
me if we
Spanish
can use the same word,
as a
article?
product.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me if we use exactly the same word, article and article?
Yes.
Yes, it's the same word. Yeah, like I'm reading an article on the newspaper. Yes.
And this article is not available, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same word.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, it's good. The thing is that I use it. I use it
Often?
very often, and I have the other day I looked it up, but it wasn't so clear for me. So
if you were able
I
to use it.
prefer asking you.
Okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, you can use both.
Okay. Good.
Now, these expressions can also be used without the phrase of the. Okay, so look at this. Here we said quantifier of that noun is correct, but it is also correct to say just the quantifier and the noun. Many textbooks, some water, all people, not much paper, most students, and a few photographs. The two options are correct.
Okay.
A definite article is used before the name of a group of people or a nationality, but no article is used before the name of a language. Or a person, actually. Let me add it here. Or a person. Well, it's a person's name. Because we could use it, for example, with the doctor. Okay? So, for example, it says, the Swedish are proud of their ancestors, the Vikings. Or she learned to speak Swedish when she lived in Stockholm. In this case, the Swedish, here we're talking about a group of people. Okay? But here we're talking about Swedish, and in this case, we're talking about the language. Even when the word is exactly the same. Okay, it's language.
Okay.
Yeah, we could be talking, for example, Spanish and Spanish as the language, and Spanish as the people from Spain. Okay, group of people.
From where?
Yes, nationalities.
From where you say?
Swedish?
From
Swedish.
Sweden.
I'm sorry?
Right?
Yes, from Sweden.
Yes.
Questions here?
Yes, the thing I have.
Now, I also add here that we cannot use that with a person's name. We can use it with the profession Okay, but we cannot do it with the person's name. For example, I can say the doctor or the teacher.
I know, yes, yes, yes.
Yes, but I cannot say the Peter or the Janine. Okay, we don't use it with the name of the person. Okay.
No, well, yes, but I wanted to point out is
Yes.
that you say Spanish.
No. I was giving you a different example.
Okay.
Yeah, I said no. I said if we use Spanish, it would be the same. Spanish is the language, and also Spanish is the word that we use for people who live in Spain. Yeah. Swedish is for Sweden.
Yes, yes. Okay.
So a definite article is used when an adjective is used without a noun to mean people who are. Okay, for example, both the young and the old will enjoy this movie. So as you can see, we're using the, but with an adjective, not a noun. And here, one more time, the old refers to the people. Okay? And here we have, for example, the poor have many problems. So every time we use the article the with an adjective, it's because we are referring to people who are an adjective. Okay?
Okay.
A definite article is used before a non-count noun or a plural noun when it is followed by a modifier. Okay? No article is used when these nouns appear alone. So we're talking about non-count or uncountable nouns, okay? Or a plural noun, but every time when it is followed by a modifier. For example, the rice that I bought today is in the bag. So here we have the rice. Rice
Which
is
one
a...
is it?
Yep. Sorry?
Which one is the modifier?
In this case, it's actually that. Yep. It's like the one that is connecting the two clauses.
Okay.
Okay. And as you can see on the second example, it says rice is a staple in many countries. Here we don't have the modifier that, so we only start with rice. Okay. Next one says threes.
Okay, yes, when we are talking about the general or with something
Specific.
specific.
That's right. What rice? Oh, the one that I bought today. Okay, I'm being specific about what rice. That's why I use the. Okay. Trees provide shade. That's in general. All trees do this. Or the trees in this park are mostly evergreens. The trees, and the modifier here is in. We're explaining which trees. The ones that are in this park. Okay?
Okay.
A definite article, again, this PowerPoint is changing my words. A definite article is used before the name of a field. I already tell you this one. Followed by an or of phrase. If a field is used alone or is preceded by an adjective, no article is used. Okay, let me just modify this one a little bit. This one is divided, I don't know why. So the literature of the 20th century, okay, or the history of the United States, or only American history literature. Here we go. So here we said, we're going to use a definite article before the name of a field, followed by an of phrase. Okay, but if a field is used alone or is preceded by an adjective, no article is used. For example, here we have the literature. Here we have the field of study, literature. That's why we use the article the. Okay.
Mhm.
And as you can see here, we said of study followed by an of phrase. Followed by an of phrase. And here we have the literature of the 20th century. Okay. So here we have the of phrase. Or the history of the United States. But in this one, we say American history literature. Okay, here we have the American is the adjective. So we don't
Mhm.
say the American history literature. Okay?
Mhm. Okay.
Questions? This is when we're talking
No.
about the name of a field. Okay?
Okay.
Now, definite articles are used before the formal names of nations, states, and cities. These usually contain phrases. No articles are used before the common names of nations, states, and cities. For example, we say, like this, we have United States of America. It's a phrase, and we use the. The state of Montana, it's a phrase, we use the. The city of Philadelphia, we use the. But we only say America, Montana, and Philadelphia. So when you have a phrase, okay, or formal names, we have to use the or the article. When we do not
Mhm.
use the phrase or the complete name, okay, of nations, we are not going to use the articles.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Definite, yeah. Yes, tell me.
No, I want to know if
Yep.
how many slides are missing
I was pretending to check the
for
last two.
today.
Just two more, and we're finished. Yeah, then we start with the next topic, but I was pretending to finish these two. Do you have things to do?
Okay.
We can finish. There's no problem. Ah, no, it's only
No, the
one.
thing is that I don't have things to do, but, but I'm
Yeah.
so sleepy.
Ah, don't worry. Now it's only this one. We'll finish with this
Especially,
one. This is the last one. It's not two. It's only one.
yes.
So definite articles are used before most plural geographic names, the names of groups of lakes, mountains, and islands. No article is used before the names of individual lakes, mountain, or island. So it's basically the same. For example, here we have the Great Lakes. We're talking in plural, so we use the. The Rocky Mountains.
There.
Okay, one more time. We're talking about many mountains. We use the. Or the Hawaiian Islands. One more time. We're talking about islands in plural, so we use the. But if I talk about one specifically, we say Lake Powell, Mount Washington, and Long Island. We don't use the article the. Okay?
Okay.
So when we're talking plural, we use the, but when we refer to these places in singular, we do not use the article. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Questions between using a or the? Questions with the articles?
I think it's clear.
Perfect, Jenny. Okay. So we're done today. Yeah? It was only you.
Good.
again. But
Yeah.
again, yeah, they will check
Who
the
knows
recording
why?
later. Yeah, I don't know.